Let's feast. I don't know why I did that.
Okay, all y'all niggas fool as fuck. I'm ULT and I don't fuck with you if you ain't us. In me I trust, I turn these niggas into cosmic dust. I'm loaded Lux with a loaded K, cop back, I spray, I bust. That player shit, that Raider shit still running through my blood. These brand new niggas took my name and drug it through the mud.
I like that. This is a good opening to the podcast. We're all in jovial spirits, but it's not just me and Tim this week. No, we have a third spirit of joviality. Yes. It's an old friend, a dear friend, but by no means a near friend. How are things going early in the morning where you are, Tara?
Well, quite lovely considering how early it is in the morning. I'm doing fine. Really happy to be with both of you.
And I'm happy to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us. As we said, this is the End Podcast. You can find us on all platforms. The End Pod one-shots on YouTube. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. We are on Google Podcasts. We are on SoundCloud. We upload art to Instagram, and we also post reviews on Twitter. So it's fairly comprehensive. So out of all those choices, if you haven't followed us, liked us, or commented on one of our exemplary podcasts or uploads, shame on you. Shame on you.
We've been really crushing it too.
It's kind of crushing, isn't it,
Yeah.
Tim? Like, I feel that our best podcast has been since we jettisoned all the deadwood.
We've been so good. I mean, like, how good.
I feel like we've gone on to heights we couldn't have even imagined. I actually feel they were holding us back.
The conversations that we have every week are like 10 standard deviations above our prior meeting.
I would go as far as to say this is the Empyrean version of our podcast. Yeah. This is the seventh heaven of the End podcast. We would also like to mention that Tara is again here with us this week, and also
what that makes me.
Joe Goose, and Brian will also be making appearances soon. We're just having jokes in with Tim. We're having jokes. We miss them all. We just wish that I had more time to involve everybody more often. We miss them all. Have either of you guys watched Why the Last Man?
I watched a bit of it. I haven't seen all of it, but I was enjoying what I was seeing.
I've only seen the first episode.
I liked it. Did you like the comic book series, Tim?
I did. I liked it a lot. I've read it through twice, once each, several years apart. So when I first got back into comics around 2016 or 2015, I read it through, and then I read it through again in the last 6 months or so. The thing I like most about it is Brian K. Vaughan's writing. I think we've talked about this last where it's just so sparse. He communicates so much in so few words in a script. It works so beautifully with the art and the artist to tell the story. So it's kind of an exemplar, I think, of the comic form in that way. And so that I liked it formally in that respect, just narratively. The story I liked well enough. It's sort of like a string of escalating sorts of disasters, which is fun. I mean, it's fun to read, but I wasn't sure about it till the end. For those of you who haven't read it, I won't spoil it. There's a couple things at the very end of the series that happen that they have a tremendous emotional payoff. So you realize at that point, wow, I really have been invested in this. So I liked it quite a bit.
I absolutely agree with everything you've said, Tim. I was a bit hot and cold. I felt like the escalation was slightly problematic because when all you're doing is just, okay, we've got out of this one. Oh, but now this has happened. Okay, we've got out of this one. But now this is bigger and it's happened. Okay, we got out of that one. It's almost as if the escalation used to be exponential and not directly proportionate because you know what to expect from it. I was surprised how lip wobbled and sniffly I was by the last, I don't know, the equivalent of the last trade, maybe. Fantastic. And I actually thought the TV series was probably as true a conversion. I thought Yorick was fantastic. Was it two? Oh, we're getting into numbers again, aren't we? Like with Squid Game. Who was the lady? The black lady, the badass one that I want to have sex with.
I can't think of her name, but I can guess who you're talking about.
Agent 355.
Oh, okay.
I think it's so important, and it's one of the things that struck me with The Walking Dead as well, that obviously acting chops are so important. And I know it's not made for comic fans they're basically adapting a property that they think everybody's going to like.
Mhm.
And it's kind of how I was arguing with Endgame. It was impossible for it to make 3 billion, basically, because you get to 1 billion by everybody watching it. You get to 2 billion by everybody watching it twice. And then if you've got one of the all-time greatest, most anticipated films ever, then you might get close to the record. But us fans probably the maximum fans equate to is a Venom film.
Yeah.
Like with The Walking Dead, to have characters that, as near as damn it, as close as they possibly could, with people that are actually good at acting, they represented the people on the page really, really well. Diane Lang, isn't it? Old Superman's mum.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She really grabs the series by the nuts as well. And I liked her arc a little better than my problem with it. I think it would probably put people off is what you need to do if you want someone to agree with you that disagrees with you. You need to trick them into thinking it was their idea to change their mind.
Exactly.
Last Christmas, I gave Brian Godshaper, the Cy Spurrier written and Jonas Goonface drawn. Now, Jonas Goonface has since absolutely disassociated himself from it. He said, how can a white male ever write a gay black man? Well, it's quite easy. It's quite easy. You have the basic empathy of being a human being. How can a man write a woman? How can a woman write a man? Because if we're saying that that's the case, then no female director can ever direct a man. It's just fucking nonsense. But I disagree with Jonas Greenface because it is an absolutely brilliant title. And why it's so brilliant, it has brilliance in subtlety. There's a very, very succinct allegory that runs all the way through the book, that by the time you get to the end of it, you are only sympathetic to all the characters. And it's so delicate and it's so precise, beautifully done. You feel like you've been on a ride with the characters. With Why the Last Man, the very small part of it with the Amazons or the Amazonians, whatever they were called, basically like militant lesbians, aren't they? Like pretty much. Like the whole trans thing that wasn't even in the fucking like comic. And all of a sudden, you have the center of it is Yorick, this hopeless romantic that just bumbles through life. It's now been presented as being the most important thing in life. It's that duplicity in expectations of him pre and post whatever occurrence got rid of all the men. But this was completely subverted. Like, I liked it, but there were times when I just felt icky that it was so blatantly fucking addressing gender politics. And I'm not even saying I disagree with it. I'm just saying as someone that's participating in the program, I've got Twitter if I want to be hit over the head with gender fucking politics. And I'm not saying I disagree with it. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just saying I've tuned in to watch like a heartwarming tale about a man and his monkey. And I think that's why it got cancelled.
That feature of it does feel a little anachronistic. You know, sometimes I wonder if that comic could be written today and be successful, because it seems like it's so part of the zeitgeist now, right? Yeah. It's not fresh in that way, in a way it was, say, whenever that was written 10 years ago or whatever. It sort of seems behind the times to me. I don't know, Tara, what do you think about that?
I agree. I feel a little underinformed because I'm the only one who hasn't read the source material.
Oh,
It's
sure.
been on my wish list for a while. And when I heard that the series was coming out, I thought I'd watch it first and then read it. But from what I've seen, from what I've been hit over the head with, there are issues they wanted to use it as a platform for that I agree need discussing somewhere, but I just don't know that this is the place to do it.
I wouldn't worry about the urgency of reading it, because it's not like you have to keep up with the TV program
Well,
anymore.
that's I was like, well, pressure off, I guess, but I still want to see the rest of what's there on the TV because I was enjoying it.
Is there a chance this could be moved elsewhere?
Yes.
Maybe they'll probably shop it around, but like with Deadly Class, like Rick Remender, he campaigned openly, but to no avails. I think the problem is now what you're having is streaming services dropping shows that aren't really likely to be picked up by others, unless, of course, the only ones that obviously aren't possible now with the words for budgetary reasons was the Netflix Marvel stuff that was cancelled. It wasn't because of Disney Plus, it was because it was too expensive and people weren't watching them anymore. The only way I could see is if Amazon could use that as a loss leader, like we discussed with the copyright termination cases.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So someone like Amazon could use like a Marvel IP as a lost leader, so I think there's there's potential for something like that. But if no one's interested in Why the Last Man, then why would Amazon pick it up? really. I mean, that's the way I look
Sure.
at it. Anyway, next off the top, because this is becoming less off the top and more in the middle. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we've gone straight to the heavy petting of the episode.
Pacing.
Yeah, come on. So, definitely not fixing the outro in post, but I'd like to thank Tim. Thank you very much, Tim, for all your glorious contribution this week, and big thanks to Tara for making herself available at the crack of dawn to join us on this week's podcast. And of course, thanks to me as well, because, you know, I'm pretty cool as well. So, yeah, good episode, I feel. And that only leaves me one thing to say. We have been, and this is the end.